Hey there, YouTube friends. maskedbandit here. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I always appreciate it. And we're back with another Planet Zoo tutorial. We're going to talk today about habitats. We're going to build 3 habitats. We're going to build a habitat with barriers, one that only uses terrain and null fencing and scenery options to show you what that can do. And then we're also going to build one with a submerged viewing area. In the first exhibit, the one with barriers, we'll talk about terrain paint and how to meet the needs, the environmental and habitat needs of your creature, of your animal. We're going to use some of the ones. We're in Nuzu Tuyu. We're going to just take some of these guys and throw them in there and see what happens, just for the purposes of this tutorial. Then we'll put them back in their main in their main habitat. So let's get started right away. We're going to start with our first one, and the first one will be barriers. Actually, maybe we'll do chain link fence. Let's do chain link fence. So we're going to start here because we're going to be putting some antelope type critters in there anyway. And I left click and up comes the menu. This button raises and lowers the height, and we can, wow, we can have some pretty tall, we can have some pretty tall. This is for your T-Rexes and such, what? 15 meters tall. That's pretty nuts. Or we can just, be normal about it. We're going to go with 2. We'll say 2.5 meters for now. And one thing that you need to know is that even if you have angle snap on, if you go into this toolbox here, and angle snap, I have it on. I like to keep it on. It doesn't do anything until you place your first one. So you got to just kind of eyeball it if you want it to be straight against the path. I do, and I actually, one of the creative things, one of the more creative design aspects, I want to leave some room between the path and where my habitat actually starts, because I want to dress that up. So let's just click it here. We're not going to make it perfectly square. Now when I turn on the terrain, the angle snap, I like to keep this on a lot of times, especially if I'm making more square or geometric shapes. But you can also do all kinds of things. So let's talk a little bit about what's over here. Height mode is interesting. Undulating means your path will go up and down or your barrier will go up and down according to the terrain. So if I hop into terrain here and I do some of this, real official like, and I would recommend a lower length, because that way you can follow the terrain and it will rise and fall with the terrain. You can see we've got some higher parts, some lower parts. That's pretty cool. Control Z, all that. The second one, flat top. Post lengths vary to keep top of barrier flat. So if we do that, now you will see, there you go. It just keeps it flat. This is a problem if you've got animals that like to climb. That's not going to work for you very well. And let's continue with our simple barrier. So let's just go ahead and put it in. Some other things you can do if you don't want angle snap, control the length here. Oh, hotkeys. Let's throw up some hotkeys. So I click, and then what I do to increase the length is the plus and minus to change the length of my habitat. And I'm going to keep it fairly short. So there we go. And I'm going to turn the snap off. Height labels, we can have them on relative to terrain or sea level. And then the camera, we're not going to mess with that at all. So we're just going to build a simple little, there we go, we're just going to do this. Just nothing fancy, nothing crazy. There you go. Just a little pen. And what we're going to do, next step, is you have to have a door into your pen. So we're going to use the habitat gate, just the plain one. And one thing you got to be careful of is which way does your path point. Make sure that your path points outwards. I mean, if this is duh to you, then apologies, but it's not to everyone. So we'll put that there. And then we got to hook it up. And it's a good idea, and this is going to be pretty naked and unattractive. It's always a good idea to put in a, go to facilities and drop in a keeper hut, at least, if it's, especially because this one's not near anything. It would make a lot of sense to have this keeper hut here. And we can talk, and maybe in another video, we could talk about staff rosters and stuff like that. There you go. So there you go. There's your habit. We're basically set up and ready now. So things you got to keep, we go into habitat menu, things you got to keep in mind. You need to have food and water. You can click on it and it'll tell you what animals we'll use, or you can use the filter option and click the species. These are sable antelope. So here we go. Here's all the options we have, all the feeding stations. We're going to do a medium food trough just because. We'll put it there. There you go. And water. I like the water pipe. Apparently, this autofills, and then you don't need keepers to deal with it. That's the rumor on the street. So I think it's the same price too. Either that or it just looks cute. I like the way it looks though. So I use that one. Oh, enrichment's always going to be important. We're going to put in the grab ball, and we're going to put in the rubbing pillar. You can put those anywhere you want. It's a good idea to put them closer to where the guests are going to be, because that way they will be able to be seen more, because they like to hang out around those, and you'll get more money, and that's dealing more in the franchise mode of things. But anyway, there is Chata, our sable antelope, hanging out. And we are going to go ahead and do a little bit of terrain editing. We're going to click on the antelope. We're going to go up here to terrain, and our hard shelter is abysmal. And we have not enough short grass, way too much long grass, not enough soil. Everything else is fine. So since we are way out of whack with our grass, we're going to turn all the grass to short. Go to terrain, go to grass short. You have your intensity slider and your size slider. You can make them whatever you want. I like to be a little higher here, and I kind of like to paint a base coat down of whatever it needs more than anything else. So here's that base coat. Now you can see our short grass is way out of whack, and everything else is now actually out of whack. So let's turn the intensity down and the slider down, and maybe we'll put some tall grass over here. Apologies if you hear my cat meowing. It likes to do that. It also needs a lot of soil, so we're going to put soil down. We're going to put soil down over here by the feeder, because this is also where we're going to take care of our hard shelter. Now this is all in balance. It's all green. It's all good. Hard shelter's pitiful. So to get hard shelter, you can do whatever you want. You can use terrain. We'll use terrain in the other example, or you can build it yourself. If you go into habitat and go to beds and shelters, there's some basic ones here. The small shelter, I think, is still quite large, but there's nothing to say you can't use that. So you can put that in here, and your animal will be happier than a pig in poo. So I think I said that in the last tutorial too. So let's get some beams. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I will, but you can see it's already, our hard shelter is already great. Look in here, our navigable area. It needs 150. We give it 450 square meters. It has 488.2 square meters. It has no preference for water and no preference for climbing. So we are actually pretty much set as far as most of this happiness goes. It still needs some enrichment, specifically food enrichment. So we can go ahead and throw that in. So back to habitat. We're going to go to enrichment and food enrichment. Now this was bugged earlier, but it's been working just fine for me. Sometimes the hay from these feeders will get all gross, and they will forget to clean it up, but that's not important. So our shelter here, I'm gonna really quickly throw in some beam. Now there you go. It's sort of standing. It's not realistic at all, but you get the general gist. Let's talk about the plants in the game. So click on the animal again and go up to environment. We have plants and we have coverage. This animal only likes grassland plants from Africa. So if you go into nature, click on the plants. You can go to continent. Oh, not Asia, Africa. And the biome is grasslands. And from there, you have the type of plants, the plant type, if it likes the plants, how much it likes the plants that are in there, and what your coverage is. So as long as you stay in the correct biome, it's going to be happy with you. Now watch what happens if I put a blob tree in here. I can't say it, but it's huge. Or a tree with just a lot of cover. Where's the umbrella occasion? They're huge. These umbrella, look at this. It's massive. This is a plains animal. So when you put that in there, that's it. Because the coverage is so great, it casts such a big shadow and is covering as much of this habitat as it is, we're at the max. We're already maxed out. If we put anything else in, if I put another tree in, even this significantly smaller tree, look, we're over. And now it is unhappy because it's not appropriate for the animal. There's just too much in there because it's a plains animal. So what I like to do is I like to use the smaller trees so I can use more of them. So let's see if we can find ourselves a small tree. Now we don't have a lot of options because it's only savanna plants that it likes. So we're going to use these smaller marula trees. I'm sure I'm not saying those right. And we're just going to what I like to do is kind of nest them in there to make them look pretty. So if we go here to coverage, I'm probably going to get dinged because there are some really not nice, because this little exhibit is not nice at all. As far as welfare goes. This animal's not as happy as it would have been in its home pen. So there you go. And I got my 2 trees. We give it some shade. Let's throw in some reeds. I like these a lot. These are great. They're nice to cover up areas. Maybe provide some shade and some for the animal and some areas of privacy for the animal. That'd be pretty nice to do. And maybe some of these here. And you can see we are at max capacity, and that's all it takes. Think about the animal. I mean, think like people are. It only takes a couple plants. I know, but it makes sense to me. This is a plains animal. Not a lot of coverage, lots of grass. That's what it likes. And now this animal should be, aside from, what's wrong with the habitat? The cleanliness. That's not good. So it's dirty, huh? It must have pooped. Yeah. So anytime that shows up for you, just go ahead and call a keeper to the habitat. The reason is this is way off the side. Nobody's coming over here anytime soon. So, but here's your basic setup. I mean, it's really not hard. One thing I like to do next is I like to put in a, where is it? Over here, we go to fences. So I'm in props, fences. We have a lot. I like this particular fence. This is a nice little fence. You can also make your own custom fence, but that's for a different tutorial. And what I like to do is I like to go ahead. And if you watch my first tutorial about keyboard shortcuts, I talk about how I am doing what I'm doing on the screen right now because I'm doing it all via keyboard. If you'd like to know that, I encourage you to watch that tutorial. It is also on the channel. You can check it out. Add them to a scenery group, and that way now I can go in here and I can much easier copy. Copy and drag, and then I can select all of them. Copy and drag. Now one thing you're gonna, I know it's off center, one thing you're gonna have to be careful of, let me fix this because it's bothering me now. One thing you're gonna have to be careful of when building these habitats is that you don't want your plants to get over into, you don't want plants that don't belong there to get stuck in there. For example, let's just pick a random plant that's not part of our biome. Reset filters. Let's pick a palm tree. Like this, these palms don't fit. Even if I place them on the outside of the habitat, they are technically going to provide coverage because they hang over. You have to make sure that wherever this barrier line is, you do not want any plants that aren't supposed to be there hanging over. It will upset them. It will upset the animals. But let's take a look at another way to do a tutorial, or another way to do a pen exhibit, excuse me, and that will be with terrain. So first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get the shape button on the terrain. This is new to Planet Zoo. This wasn't in Planet Coaster. And you don't want fill. You want to unclick fill. This is just what I'm going to do. And it's going to be pretty rough and ready, but it will work. And then you can dress it up on your own however you see fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it again. We're going to give ourselves some room. If I look, you can see this in-game, this world grid here. So I'm going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3. We're going to say about 3. 3 clicks back, and I'm going to click once. Look at that. And it automatically depresses the land. And I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to just kind of go all the way down here. Just to create what I'm really... oh, see, that's too much. See, we're going to... What I want to do is I want... What happened here? There we go. I want to create a hard edge all across the area here. It keeps freezing on me. That's not good. So I want to create a hard edge for the length of my, there we go, for the length of my exhibit. We're going to put one more in. We're going to go like so. There. And that's going to be the length. Now you can change the width on this again. Like if I went closer, I could, and then what I could do is I could just pull, if I don't like that, I can go flatten the foundation and I can just stretch it out a little bit. The thing you want is you really want this drop off. You really want this little gourd, this little thing here. I mean, you could dress it up with rocks and stuff, and that's probably what we're going to do to make it look nice. But you need it to be steep enough so that when the animal's in there, it won't try to hop out. And then what we can do is we could just take out the terrain, a high intensity, low brush, and we're going to pull the terrain out. Now that's a little excessive. Maybe not that intense, maybe down to about 70%. And you're just going to wipe along here, and again, you want the same thing. You want a really tall, steep ridge here that any animal's not going to be able to, most animals aren't going to be able to climb out of. I'll show you what it looks like. There's a special screen that you can use to really test this. So there's our basic exhibit. It's nothing spectacular. Now I'm going to put one of the, what is it called? Well, you'll see. I'm going to put a different antelope in there. It's a desert one, but it'll look good. So here's what I'm going to do next, though. I'm going to take my flatten the foundation, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Make it 4, if I can. These sliders are not very nice. So I'm going to take it, and let's see. Let's go this way. We're going to just carve this area out, make it flat. There. Why are we going to do that? Because that's going to be how we get in and out of this exhibit. So we go back now to barriers. And let's go ahead and put in the habitat gate. And you'll notice it's still, we're going to spin it around here. This is a little bit different than we did last time. We started with the barriers and then put the gate in. We're doing the opposite this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to back it up a bit. There. And we're going to build a structure. So we're going to build a structure around this, and I'll show you what we're going to do after that. So go into construction, and there we go, architecture, wall pieces, and we're going to keep it simple. We're going to use this breeze block wall. We're going to use the one with the door on it, and we're going to rotate it so that it fits really nice against this door. This is kind of an easy way to do this, and I'm going to actually just sink it just a teensy-weensy bit. There. So now, and I'm going to scooch it forward, actually, and I'll explain why in a second. So I'm going to scooch it in, quote, inside. Inside. That's going to be important in a second. So we're going to do that. And now we're just going to build a simple square. This is going to be where the animal comes to sleep at night. Theoretically, if we were doing this like super realistically, this backstage area would probably be much larger because it would have like an actual pen for it to sleep in. So I'm going to go like that and like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, I like these walls to use as entrances and exits for our little animal. And that's I'm gonna connect it. Why not? It doesn't matter, because what I'm gonna do now that I've got the box, I'm gonna dress it up. I'm gonna make it look nicer. Now that looks a little yucky, so let's use terrain to clean it up. Let's use the pull tool. There we go. And we're gonna just pull it in there. Just kind of make it look like it's part of the enclosure a little bit better. I'm gonna come up higher here and really make sure that it can't escape. We'll put a roof on it, and we can use the flatten the foundation up here and really get in there. There. Cool. Put the push tool. Push that back a little bit. It's going to be really hard to get it perfect. These terrain tools are finicky at best. But that's already looking better. We can use rocks then to clean that up. Let's slap on just a really easy basic roof. A flat roof even for this. Like, we're not going for design points here. So hopefully. There. All right. So there you go. There you have it. This animal should not, I don't think, be able to escape. Might there. But we haven't actually put in the, now if you're thinking, wait a minute, you haven't actually put in any barriers. You're right, I haven't. We still need to do barriers. And you can't not put barriers in. It won't let you put an animal there. So we've got the barrier started here. Go into barriers, and this time we're going to do the null. We're going to do null. So there's not going to be any actual barriers here. So click null, and this shows up. It's important now that you pay attention and you don't actually go anywhere inside the habitat that you want the animal to be able to go in. We're going to actually cut right through this rock here. I've got this flat top. It doesn't really matter at this point because this is just telling the game that I want this to be an enclosure. It does not matter whether or not it's straight or it's lined up nice. It's just for the game's sake at this point. I am going to go right through this trench though, or at least I'm going to try. And I'll tell you why in a second. Why not up here? Well, I'll tell you why in a second. So here we go. We're going to cut right through. There we go. We're going to come back this way, and we're going to line it back up over here, being sure that we don't get there, that we don't get into that. We don't want to be in there. Then the last step is you highlight the pieces that you had and click on null, and it will close all of them. Now it looks like this building actually has the door, and if we want to now, we can scooch it back just a teensy bit. There. Cool. Oh, I didn't click. I didn't click OK. There. All right. So now we're ready. Since I know what this animal likes, we're going to put a desert animal in there, so we're going to need lots of sand. Let's go ahead and throw some sand in there. There we go. And we're going to paint the whole thing. Now, one thing you got to pay attention to with this is that a lot of the barrier, you don't realize how much barrier you have, because I'm only thinking about the part the animal's going to be in. You got to think about everything that's in this null barrier. So we do that, and then it likes rocks too. So we're going to make these look a little bit better just by terrain painting them. Let's increase that a little bit. That's probably too much, but that's okay. All right, and we'll take a look at how happy or not our animal is in a second. Now we've got it, and obviously if I was really caring about how it looked, I could bring the terrain up and carve this out. I mean, you could do that. There's nothing that prevents you from doing that. This is a little bit easier, but I wanted to show a habitat that does not use any actual barriers. So I'll be back when the animal's actually here. Alright, so I threw in the necessary food trough, I filled in the toy, the enrichment opportunities, and instead of a water bowl, we actually have a body of water here the animal will drink from. So that's cool. The downside to that is you need to have yourself some some filtration systems close by. We don't, because this animal's not going to be here for very long, but here you go. There is no barrier here, just those null barriers, no in-game barrier. Now, if you're curious, how did I know? Like, see, it's going to start to climb up. I'm a little nervous. So I'm going to jump in down here to my heat maps, check out the habitat one. Now, it doesn't select an animal. We're going to click this animal. Here's all the places it can go. Uh-oh, we have a jumpable escape point. So I guess it's theoretically possible for this animal to jump across. If I remove the rocks, it might go away. So let's see. I'm going to get rid of the rocks. We don't want the animal climbing out. So if I click on it again, oh, look, it's gone. So yeah, those rocks, there was nothing stopping that from Gemsbach from climbing the rocks and jumping across. So that's why we have this here. But theoretically now, this animal should not be able to escape. But you can see that's a nice habitat. That's much nicer than that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But if you want to up your game a little bit, there you go. And there's not much difference in what it didn't take that much longer. Our final one is going to be a one where you can see underneath. You can see under the water. There we go. I couldn't talk. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this shape tool again. I'm going to increase the width a little bit. We're going to just dig out here. We're going to still go back a little bit a ways, give ourselves some room to work. And this time I'm just going to do a little bit and then get my flatten the foundation, and I'm going to push all this back. We're going to go this away. We're going to do this. There. And then we're really going to smooth. We're going to use a really light brush, and we're going to go. And I'm just going to kind of click rapidly and drag my mouse across. And what that does is it really gets a nice shallow, really nice shallow grade going on here. So we do need to, however, consider, back to shape, cube, we do need to consider that this is all going to be at ground level for the peeps. So let's do this, that, and the other. Let's see if this works. There. That will be great. What I'm going to do is going to be a massive enclosure. This is probably way too big. I mean, I know it's way too big. I'm going to go back to barriers, and I'm going to choose glass this time. Where's the glass? You don't have to choose glass, but I mean, if you want them to see it, you're going to want glass. Actually, let's get the path down here first. So we're going to... I mean, that's not great, but it'll do. All right, now I know where to put the glass. So we're going to go ahead to barriers. We're going to put the glass in. There's glass. Click on it. And just like we've been doing, you put it where you want it. We're going to scooch it back just a little bit. Put it there and there. There. Okay. And the animal's probably not going to be able to climb. Maybe it will be able to climb out of there. So what we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to raise these fences. One big trick you can do, you could click on a post and then you can move it wherever you want it. Oh, and that's a clever way to fine-tune your enclosure. So now this animal's probably not going to be able to escape that. I'm going to slide this over this way just a little bit. There we go. Cool. That's looking pretty okay. And we're going to continue this way with the angle snap on just so it's straight. And let's make it a corner. Let's make it a corner. So down here, you'll notice it's all wiggly. I get the option of straight or curved. I'm going to use straight so that we can make it like this. And actually, we might just go ahead. And now I'm going to switch now to the undulating, and we're just going to follow the path up and hope that the animal we pick can't climb. That would not be good. So I'm giving it kind of a rush job here. And we're going to connect. There. All right, so here's our new exhibit. I'm going to actually change this. So I'm going to pick this piece and just click and drag, because I want to change all this fencing. And I want to make it corrugated. There. Now we have corrugated fencing. And we have our exhibit. And now we can just put our water in, and it should go. So let's go to terrain. Water, and you can see we have different levels. Well, not really. We have one level. We're going to put the water right there. With the water right there, I think this animal's not going to be able to get out over there, which is good. But now we have a semi-underwater viewing area, which I think is super cool. Something really neat. The problem here is you cannot, if you want to make any changes to your terrain on or near the water or under the water, you have to remove the water. You have to do your terrain. There we go. There we go. All right. There. And then you can put the water back in. There. Cool. All right. Now, I don't have any enrichment options. We can throw food options in. But you get the idea. It's really just a matter of playing and fine-tuning. And so I'm going to go ahead and pause so we don't destroy our lizard. But here's some 3 easy, fairly straightforward ways you can build exhibits. Now, this is just the baseline. You can do lots of crazy things. I've seen some amazing things out there, so don't be shy to experiment. Let animals escape, mess things up. The most important thing is that you get the terrain and you get the environment sound, and then they're in good shape. I hope that this has helped a lot of you. I know a lot of people have been wondering about habitats. I'm not quite sure if I touched on what you were hoping for, but aside from just making sure that you're reading those graphs, there's not much to it. You can do it in a lot of different ways. So hopefully you've learned some tips and tricks, some ideas that maybe you haven't thought of, how to better use, especially these null fences. I kept them outside of the pen because if they were inside, the thing that would happen is if the animal were to, if I had it cut right through here and the animal walked across the line, the alarm bells that an animal had escaped would turn on, people would run away, zoos would get bad ratings. Make sure for the null fences, it's completely outside where you want that animal to get to. I wasn't able to do that with the wolves, and it messed me up. And then these, make sure you get your terrain first, and then you can go ahead and put your water in. You can use the barriers as a way to retain water, which is something really, really cool. So, the next one on the tutorial was surviving franchise mode. That was the next most popular one. I'll post another poll on my Facebook community or my YouTube community page for those of you that are interested. And if you did enjoy this and you did think it helped, give it a big old like. And if you're new, you're just finding me for the first time, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. There will be some other tutorials as well as my playthrough of Planet Zoo, both this beta version and then in the next month when it drops. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss when we hit the full release. So with all that being said, have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever, and I will see all of you for the next Planet Zoo tutorial. Take care, everyone. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.